Last chapter, we briefly talked about how anarchists want to abolish the government. But what is the government? Well, it depends on your perspective. My name is Sean, and welcome to Germinal. Commonly, we believe the government to be an abstract social power, an invisible entity, independent of whoever is holding office. It's the abstract representation of the will of the people and is usually associated with great qualities such as justice and equity. And this view is greatly encouraged by the people in power, believing that the idea of authority should always be defended, even if the authority can sometimes be bad and not promote justice and equity. Commonly, we believe that the government is a good thing for society. Now, let's see what the anarchists think. Anarchists don't really see the government as an abstract representation of the will of the people. They see it as governors, kings, presidents, ministers, what have you. A government is someone or a collection of people with the power to regulate the workings of society through laws. Such laws, Malatesta says, are there to regulate interhuman relations and to see that they are carried out, to levy taxes and to collect them, to impose military conscription, to judge and punish those who contravene the laws, to subject private contracts to rules, scrutiny, and sanctions, to monopolize some branches of production and some public services, or, if they so wish, all production and all public services, to promote or to hinder the exchange of goods, to wage war or make peace with the governors of other countries, to grant or withdraw privileges, and so on. So the governors are the ones who can make use of the social power, being the community's collective physical, intellectual, and economic power. This concentration of power in the hands of a few governors constitutes the principle of government, of authority. But now that we answered what the government is, we have to answer if the government is desirable. Malatesta asks the question as follows: why give them this power to take over willy-nilly the collective strength to use as they wish? Are they so exceptionally gifted as to be able to demonstrate, with some show of reason, their ability to replace the mass of the people and to safeguard the interest, all the interests, of everybody better than the interested parties themselves? Are they infallible and incorruptible to the point that one could, with some semblance of prudence, entrust the fate of each and all to their knowledge and to their goodness? So here are some amazing questions. They imply that nobody is so exceptionally gifted to replace the mass of the people and to act in their interest without being corrupted by power. Malatesta says that the responsibility of such authority is too big to be undertaken by a few people. Anarchists believe that no human can bear such responsibility, such power, without being corrupted, and, in consequence, we shouldn't trust anybody with that kind of power. We can't trust someone, not even an anarchist, with a concentration of power. But it's not only about absolute power corrupting absolutely, it's also about abilities. What makes someone so much more suitable to make decisions rather than the community itself? I won't quote many millionaires here, but what Michelle Obama said illustrates my point. I have been at probably every powerful table that you can think of. I have worked at non-profits. I have been at foundations. I have worked in corporations, served on corporate boards. I have been at G-summits. I have sat in at the UN. They are not that smart. Alright, well, what if there was an infinitely good and infinitely wise group of people? Would the concentration of power into their hands still be beneficial? If a government could be justified, it's certainly a government of all wise and all good individuals. Malatesta says that the government, in this case, would still be pointless. These people now at the government wouldn't benefit society more than they already are. Perhaps it would slow down the development of society, as these people would have to deal with so many different subjects without fully understanding each and every one of them, from agriculture and education all the way to health services and culture. Plus, a government, even if managed by very good people, would still spend resources and energy in preserving itself and fighting off dissidents. And still, no matter if they're infinitely good or not, we have to determine who will put them in power. Should they impose themselves by rights of conquest, war, or revolution? Well, certainly not. How would we be sure that they would act for the benefit of all? Should they be selected from a specific class or party? Again, absolutely not, as the interests of that said party or class will most likely be defended over the general interest. But what about voting them in? Well, here's an interesting question on suffrage, which will definitely be the subject of a video on this channel in the near future. Malatesta says that numbers are not an indicator of reason, justice, nor ability. Being elected doesn't mean you're the best, and it doesn't mean you're the most honest. It just means that you're good at getting votes. You're good at deceiving the public. Malatesta also expresses concern for minorities, which, in this case, are not accounted for. So, to anarchists, a government is undesirable in part because, even if the governors are infinitely good and incorruptible, which is impossible, they wouldn't be able to manage society as effectively as communities could, for they have, like any other humans, limited knowledge. They can't make decisions on everything. And added to that, it would be hard to find a fair and equitable way of putting them into power without alienating a large part of the population, because concentrating power into one entity necessarily leaves a lot of people powerless. Next chapter, we'll see how we justify the government and what Malatesta thinks of these justifications.